Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Star Wars quarter scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at none other than Mando and Grogu based off Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Now this guy was actually announced prior to the chrome version of the 6 scale Mando. And when they put this guy up for pre-order, this was it. This was the ultimate Mando. It came with the most stuff, it was the biggest in size, and it came with a gorgeous diorama display base. If Hot Toys hadn't dropped that chrome Mando, I'm pretty sure there would be no debate as to whether which one, either 6 scale or quarter scale, was the superior release. For Hot Toys, quarter scale is the creme de la creme. Now, if you are looking to pick up this Mando, he is available from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is down in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here, of course, we have the box art, and it's done in the usual Hot Toys quarter scale style. We do have a massive 3D image of Mando's helmet, as well as the Hot Toys quarter scale logo. On the side, we have a Star Wars logo, and all of the relevant legal information is printed on the back. Now, I would suppose that if you get the standard version, the box is going to be a little bit slimmer. This is one hefty box, because of course it does come with that deluxe diorama display base. But we're not really here to dissect the box, we're more here to look at the figure inside. Now, as I said in the intro, Hot Toys quarter scale is the top tier of Hot Toys pieces, so they usually go all out on the artwork, and they've done that on this strip. I do believe that every single one of these images is the actual Hot Toys figure. And here we have him. I am so darn excited to get this guy out here. Ever since Hot Toys announced him, I have been counting down the days. And here we have him. First in-hand impressions are very positive. I'm already loving the look and feel of this guy, as much as I can see with all the plastic on in hand. Now we do have one tray up on top, another down below, and then lastly one more under that. So what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces that go with Mando. Now don't worry, in the very next clip we will be taking a look at Grogu as well as all of his accessories. Now let's start off with the display base first. This is the one that specifically comes with the Deluxe Mando. If you're wondering, well, what display base comes with the standard one then, Justin? It's actually this one that's underneath. It's this metal grate style base. Initially, I thought with the deluxe version, kind of like their deluxe Darth Vader, you'd be able to detach this upper piece. Unfortunately, it's fixed on there. So if you wanted to get the ultimate one, you can no longer use it with this particular display base and save yourself the height, the vertical shelf space. If you're going for the deluxe, you are stuck with this particular configuration. Now you do have some LEDs in the base itself. Unlike quarter scale Spidey though, there is no AC point to have this plugged in all the time. You have to use 3 AAA batteries. You do have a yellow/orange light strip along the back there, and then IG-11's eyes do light up. But the coolest part about this base, at least for me, is IG-11's eye rings can actually move, just like the 1/6 scale version. I, for one, didn't expect that, but I'm super glad to see it here. I'm also loving the paint applications. He's pitted, he's war-torn, and yeah, his chest has exploded. He's succeeded in trying to self-destruct. You do have this panel, this flap around the front that's made of a more rubbery plastic, so you shouldn't have to worry about that breaking off. Now you do have this gorgeous chrome mythosaur skull on the front here, as well as a little bit of a Beskar backdrop. You also have the Mandalorian on a stunning metal nameplate. Lastly, you have a Death Watch helmet that has very clearly been superheated, but the coolest part about this particular helmet is you can remove it. And if you wanted to, I'm pretty sure you can have Mando wearing this. I'm not exactly sure why you would want to, because it's not his usual look, but yeah, you could totally give that a go. I don't think it's something I'm going to do. More than likely mine will simply stay on the display base. Now, if you are getting the Deluxe, you're also getting this absolutely massive E-Web cannon. Now, I've never owned the 1/6 scale version of the E-Web by Sideshow, but this gives me a rough idea as to how it would scale with a figure. Obviously, shrunk down to 1/6 scale, but yeah, this is massive. The paint applications are stunning. It looks suitably metallic. It's very clearly quite worn. And then up the top here, we do have a little red clear section that's meant to indicate some kind of screen. Now you do have to attach this hose separately, which is also quite worn. It's got some silver dry brushing over the top, and then it connects to this power box. This actually pegs into the display base. You can see the 2 ports down below, and then the 2 ports on the back of the base. But the interesting thing is, half of this power box has been completely blown away. You do have some cables dangling off the top, and a lot of rather soft battle damage. This kind of reminds me of when Hot Toys used to give us diorama bases back in the day, before they started working with that other company known as Studio Hive. The battle damage is rather soft, but this isn't something that you'll be paying a lot of mind to. You'll probably be more than likely looking at Mando himself. But don't worry, we will be comparing this E-Web cannon to Mando a little bit later in the video, just to give you an idea of scale. Now, of course, all of the other parts and pieces can either be stored on Mando or be held in his hands. Now, let's start off with the Amban Phase Pulse Rifle. This thing is stunning, and I think it's the best representation of this particular firearm that we've gotten to date. Now, starting off with the stock, yep, it does a decent enough job of looking like wood. There is a grain over the top, as well as a subtle gradient. You do have the chrome section around the back with the little screws in there as well. Then moving up to the body, you do have a working loading section where you can install one of the cartridges stored on Mando. A really nice touch and something that I definitely wasn't expecting. Now you do have a bunch of pitting and weathering and a few washes down in the crevice, plus it picks up the light marvelously. It looks suitably metallic. You do have the strap which can be rotated around, and it's magnetic. Thank you, Hot Toys. No more dangerous little pegs that can snap off. This is absolutely the best way of doing it. Now moving up, you do have the scope which can be detached and held in his hand, just like he did in various episodes, such as Season 1, when he was scoping out the encampment where Grogu was being held. It's a little bit challenging to peg it back in on camera, but as you can see, it goes right back in there. Now you do have the superheated section on the front here with the tuning fork style look. I love the way they've done this. I love the blue fading to purple, then back to silver. I'm not sure if I'll be displaying my Mando with the Amban Phase Pulse Rifle, but I definitely will be displaying him with the jetpack. Now this also gives us a little bit of a sneak preview as to what the paint finish looks like on quarter scale Mando. Now no, it isn't that gorgeous shiny metallic chrome that we're getting in 1/6 scale. This is more along the lines of what we got previously with the 1/6 Mando. It's kind of a metallic gunmetal. I personally never had an issue with that finish, and I don't here either. It looks stunning. It's got a metallic flake, it's suitably glossy, there's pitting on the surface, and yeah, I love the way it looks. Now we do have some superheated sections with a little bit of purple coming from the thrusters down here, but unfortunately we don't have any blast effects. That's something that I was fully expecting to see, but they just didn't do it. Now we do have multiple little foam sections in the back, as well as some faux magnets. The actual magnets are actually in the center here behind this plastic layer, but I love that they've actually thought about how in-universe this would connect to Mando. It's something that other companies just wouldn't do. They'd keep it nice and smooth and clean, but Hot Toys have gone crazy with the detailing, including on parts and pieces that you'd never really inspect that closely. Now, he does, of course, come with his sidearm. This thing is really well done. We do have that wood grain effect on the handle, a subtle gradient from the blued metal down to a more purple finish, as well as some gold and silver accents. And you also have a bunch of pitting on the surface. I feel like I'm going to say pitting a lot throughout the course of the video. Now, you do, of course, get his vibroblade, and this can be stored in his armor. The instructions do tell you where to store most of this stuff, if it indeed has a place to go, so make sure you are reading it. Now, he does come with a couple of attachments for his gauntlets, the first of which is the grappling hook. Now, this is a metal rod, so you shouldn't have a ton of issues with it breaking, but these pieces do feel rather fragile, so do be careful when you are handling it. You also get one of the most dynamic flamethrower effects that I've ever seen. And as you can see, when the light hits it, it glows a treat. It almost looks like it's being lit up, but it isn't. It's literally just the light shining down on it, and because it is so translucent, it does glow. Now, you do have some blue towards the end, where it would, of course, be hottest, then to a translucent, and then moving on to a fiery, vibrant orange. I love the shape of this. It's a lot more dynamic than we're used to seeing. Usually it's kind of just like an orb that comes down to a point. This one definitely looks like real life fire. Now, you do get a bunch of smaller bits and pieces that can either be stored on Mando or held in his hands. Speaking of being held in his hands, we do get a Beskar ingot. We do have an accurate Imperial cog this time, not like the little asterisk that we get on the 1/6 scale one, and we do have that Beskar swirly pattern. I wouldn't have minded getting the Camtono with this, but unfortunately they didn't give it to us. We did, however, get this little detonator piece. It has a real metal hook up the top so it can hook on his belt, and this little switch section has a ball joint so you can move it around. None of the buttons depress, and we don't have any LEDs in here, but this is a very nicely sculpted and painted little piece. We also have a tracking fob with a very rubbery style piece up on top, so once again, no issues with breakages, and this is also painted marvelously. You do have two more pieces that can actually attach to Mando. They're swap out parts. The first of which is the whistling birds attachment. Unlike with the 6 scale one, we don't have a bunch of parts and pieces that can interchange, and we don't have the effect, which I would have loved to have seen, but at the very least we have one where they are fully exposed. Lastly, we have the little head torch. I was not expecting this to light up, but it does. That is blowing my mind. I love that it can do that. You simply pull out one of the ears on his helmet, peg this in, and yeah, it actually does work. That is a very nice touch, Hot Toys. What we are going to do now, though, is take a look at the hands that come with Mando, because unfortunately I wasn't able to fit them in this shot, and then we'll move on to Grogu. Here we have the array of hands that come with Mando. They are pretty straightforward, very similar to what we saw with the 1/6 scale one, except everything is scaled up, including the detail. There is a ton of texture on these hands, and they look stunning. You do have a very leather-like look. The fingers do look like they are in some very poofy and soft gloves. And then on the outside, you have that Shore Trooper-esque pad with the blue triangle and some weathering down in the crevices. Now, unfortunately, they did away with the open palm relaxed hands. We only get the trigger finger hands, some closed fists, and for some reason this hand, but only for one side. This is of course meant to go with the vibroblade. You simply slide it in and away you go. But yeah, they did away with the open palm hands. I was fully expecting them to be here. It's something that they should have given us, but all we get are these, as well as the semi-closed grasping hands that come on Mando. Either way, I still think it's a fairly good array. Here we have all the parts and pieces that go with Grogu. Now, yes, I know the bag was technically in the shot with all of Mando's accessories, but I didn't want to talk about it until we saw Grogu himself. So here it is. It's pretty straightforward. It's literally a satchel bag type piece. You slide it over his noggin and away you go. You do have a couple of panels. These actually go towards the front side, whereas the back is completely smooth. And, of course, you simply pop Grogu inside. Unfortunately, the stitching is rather rough on mine, including on the straps. I'm not exactly sure why it's as rough as it is, but I would have hoped that Hot Toys would have made it a little bit cleaner. Now you do get this translucent flight pole to go along with the hover pram as the shifter knob goes rolling around all over the place. It's pretty straightforward. There's a hinge at either end and a swivel point as well. Now when you bring in the display base, it literally pegs into either of these ports on the side. It is as straightforward as can be. Now, as the shifter knob is hidden under the hover pram, we may as well take a look at it. It's very straightforward. There's a blue dot on the outside and an empty section underneath. There are no magnets in this as far as I can tell. It literally just sandwiches into Grogu's hand. Now you do have hands specifically sculpted for holding the shifter knob, so we may as well keep it there so it doesn't go rolling away. Now you do get the hover pram, of course. You simply squeeze the lid and then pop it off to get a look at the inside. I love the way this is painted. It kind of looks like a rough, rubbery style texture, but it isn't. It's just smooth plastic that's been painted with that effect. Now you do have some chrome silver as well on the inside there, and then the outside is detailed marvelously. It's not quite as dirty as I would have liked, and technically this is the hover pram from Season 1. He shouldn't really be using this one for a Season 2 representation, but I won't complain. I still like that we got one. Now, to go along with the hover pram, we get a blanket. This does look very flat and smooth, but if you sort of crumple it up and stuff it in the back, it does a decent enough job of looking like a blanket. Now, you do get the mythosaur necklace that, if you wanted to, you could give to Mando himself, but I'm pretty sure most of us will be displaying this with the child. The string is very thin, and so too is the plastic used on the horns. So do be careful. It's not rubbery, it's a solid plastic. You don't want to be breaking the horns on your mythosaur. Moving on to Grogu himself, there will be a full review for the standalone version of Grogu coming up on the channel, so we'll treat this as a preview, but technically you're about to see everything anyway. Now he does come with two different Grogu head sculpts, one with the mouth open, then one with the mouth closed. This one is my preferred of the two. You can see his teeny tiny little teeths on the inside there, and his eyes have a gorgeous high gloss. There is definitely a depth to them. You can see multiple layers, and yeah, they shine a treat. Now, you do have interchangeable ears between the two. You simply remove them, just like the life-size version of Grogu, and as you can see, his head has popped off. But it's simply a ball joint, we peg it back on, and now his ears are going upwards and he looks happy. This, I think, will be my favorite configuration. But then again, you have this one, and if you wanted to, you can interchange these ears with the upwards ones as well. But as far as I'm aware, this is the first time we've got the ears going upwards. With the life-size one, they were either flat or going down, but this is a really cute look for Grogu. Now, we do have cloth robes here. It's got a nice fuzzy section up the top, and Grogu himself is fully articulated. The body underneath is rather ingenious. They've actually used a 1/6 scale wrist peg for his elbow joints. That means they swivel, they hinge forward and back, and you have a swivel for the hand itself. It's a rather ingenious solution. You then have a ball joint up here for the shoulder. The body is a fixed piece of plastic, and then the legs just swivel forwards. Now, you do get, of course, a bunch of hands for Grogu. You do get the Force-using hands that do have a little bit of pink on the palms, as well as these, which are kind of just more relaxed hands. Now, the instructions do give you a very specific means of installing Grogu into the hoverpram. They say to angle the legs backwards and then pop him in there. I don't personally like doing that. I prefer to actually fully detach the legs because they are simply on ball joints, and then you can take Grogu and pop him in the hoverpram. It makes a lot more sense, he sits a lot closer to the front, and once you sort of finagle him in there, he definitely looks the part. Granted, I do have a lot more work to do to get him fully situated and stable, but don't worry, you will see that later on in the video. Overall though, yeah, so far I'm really loving this Grogu. Here we have the first of the two display base configurations. Now it's nowhere near as involved as the Deluxe Super Special Edition version of Spidey, the one with the Vulture diorama display base. There were, I think, 5 different options. This one has a more simple 2. You can go with or without the eWeb cannon. Now, I personally haven't decided which way I'm going to go in the display. If you are like me and went for the Deluxe, you probably are a little bit more prepared than I am, and you've made a little bit of space in the collection to fit it in. I haven't done any of that, so I have no idea if it's going to fit, because with the eWeb cannon attached, this is a very tall display base. Granted, when you have Mando on there, it's tall anyway, but this also takes up a lot of room towards the back. It gives it more depth, so you do have to account for a lot more shelf space. But it's undeniable that this does have a ton of presence. No matter which way you go though, the lights still work, obviously, and you can pop baby Grogu in his hoverpram on the side, which is exactly what I'm going to do for my display. What we are going to do now though is get Mando himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And oh yes, this is it right here. We've reached peak Mandalorian. Now you may be sitting there thinking, Justin, what are you talking about? We've got a bunch of 1/6 scale ones, and yeah, you're absolutely right, and they are fantastic, but this guy takes it to an entirely new level. Now let me break down why I think that is. First of all, the body. The proportions are spectacular. I saw the Sideshow Premium format Mando, and that boy was very, very skinny. This Mando is definitely thick, with at least 2 C's, and I for one think that's more accurate to the show. He fills out the suit a lot more, and it looks less weird and lanky. I also love the paint applications on the armor. That is a point of contention for a lot of people because it isn't chrome, and we will dissect that a little bit more in just a second. Also, where the 6 scale figure had to cheat in terms of the materials, making certain straps out of plastic rather than the real materials they're supposed to be, with quarter scale, they spared no expense and made this as close to a real functioning suit as possible. Again, we'll touch on that more in just a second. But overall, so far, yeah, I'm super happy with Mando. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal, and I've stored as many of the weapons and parts and pieces on Mando as I possibly could, just so you can get an idea of how and where everything attaches. Now we will be swapping out the earpiece in just a second to get a look at the torch on the helmet. Now speaking of the helmet, I love the shape. It looks super accurate. You do have all of the accurate and very crisp and sharp panel details, and paint applications look stunning. And I know this more dull gunmetal finish isn't for everyone, but I kind of like the way it looks. Yes, I absolutely would have preferred the chrome, but at the same time, I'm not going to complain. This is still awesome. You do have a bunch of pitting and wear and tear over the top of the Beskar, and the same goes for all of the armor pieces. Now I do have the Amber Phase pulse rifle attached to Mando, and you do that in the exact same way as the 6 scale. You have this little magnetic strap that comes through his cape, and then up the top it pegs in. This time it is a magnet and a very shallow peg. That means you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever with any breakages, because that peg right there is tiny. Now, if you do want to attach the jetpack, it's pretty straightforward. You literally grab it and it magnetizes in place. It's a pretty secure connection, but if you are trying to pose your Mando, I would probably dial in the pose first and then go about attaching the jetpack. I'm speaking from experience. It has fallen off a few times. Now, as for the flight suit itself, they didn't go with the accurate brown. However, they did include a bunch of brown weathering. I guess that's their way of getting around it. As you can see, it is rather dirty and grimy, which I'm a huge fan of, but it should really be that color right there. It also is made up of a bunch of different parts and panels, including this piece right here, which is a rubbery style plastic. It also has a bunch of weathering in the crevices. Now you do also have a bunch, which I know I've said a few times already, but a bunch of these little cylinders which can be removed. There are some up the top here, some of them are in the belt, and then there are a few more all the way down here on his shin armor, which can also be removed. Now you do have a spot dedicated specifically for the tracking fob. The instruction manual does tell you that's where it's supposed to go, and there is a little clip as well underneath the cylinders for the detonator. You simply move them up and out of the way, and then this piece can rather simply, if you get it at the right angle, slide off and remove. It's not the easiest thing to do on camera. Now, of course, you do have a holster down below for his pistol. Now, you do have an asymmetrical design for the gauntlets. Of course, one side you have the whistling birds, which you can very simply detach and replace with the fully expanded version. They literally just peg in place and they look great. Whereas on the other side, you have the flamethrower. This is a little bit more tricky to attach, but you can see there's a little bridge section. You then take the flame and simply peg it in. Don't worry, you'll get a much better look at how that looks in a proper pose later on in the video. Now, coming down to the armor, you do have two different thigh plates. This one is a borrowed part from the droid Q90 from the prison episode of Season 1, so no, it's not technically Beskar. That's why the finish is slightly different. I really like the way it looks. It looks like proper rusted out, scuffed up metal. They've done a great job replicating that finish. Now, one of the key differences in the Beskar armor between Season 1 and Season 2 is this knee pad. It gets blown off when the E-Web battery explodes in Season 1. It's shot by Moff Gideon. This armor plate is then removed, and so too is this knee pad. It's actually back in Season 2. It's battle damaged, it's got those little dart projectors on the side, and yes, it's a very weathered piece. Then, coming down to the shin armor, they are asymmetrical. I love how it does have this sort of point, kind of like stormtroopers and death troopers have, whereas on the other side, you've got a little pouch up the top, and it kind of looks like a pleather effect. Other than that, the shoes are fairly simple, but they do have a ton of gorgeous sculpted in leather texture, and yes, real soles down the bottom. But for those of you wondering what the flashlight looks like on the helmet, here we have it, fully installed and turned on. Now, I don't know if this is a look that I personally am going to go with. It's a very niche display option, but I'm super glad that they included it. And even more so because it lights up. It's such a nifty little gimmick, but they managed to get it in there because this is quarter scale after all. Now, just before we move on, I want to talk about the Mudhorn sigil. It is a lighter, more chrome style finish than the pauldron itself, but it looks great. The sculpt and also a little bit of blackwash in the eye really brings it out quite nicely. He also does have his cape out the back, which is that same super soft and lightweight material. You also have a full pleather vest underneath, just like the real screen-used suit. So I think the name of the game when it comes to these quarter-scale figures is accuracy above all else. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the Hot Toys quarter-scale Boba Fett from Return of the Jedi alongside Mando. Now Boba was previously my favourite quarter-scale Star Wars figure, and I know it's still early on in the video, but this Mando is now my favourite. They have come a long way in terms of their quarter-scale body technology, in terms of the accessories included, and in terms of the fit and finish of the overall figure. I still love Boba Fett, but this Mando is just so much better. If you are looking for a quarter-scale Star Wars piece, specifically a figure, and you are torn between these two, then I would honestly sit down and seriously consider picking up this Mando. For those wondering how a 1/6 scale Mando stacks up alongside the quarter scale one, here you can see that, yeah, it's a lot bigger, as you would expect. Now I do have my custom Season 2 Mando on the left here, with the accurate brown flight suit, might I add, Hot Toys. Still not entirely sure why they haven't done that for the quarter scale one, but nevertheless, he is considerably bigger. So if you've never seen a quarter scale figure in person before, and you have this 1/6 Mando, this should give you a rough idea as to whether or not it'll fit in your display. Lastly, here we have the quarter scale Grogu from this very set alongside Mando, and yeah, he is a teeny tiny little guy, but I'm pretty sure that scale is accurate. I looked up a bunch of pics of the puppet in Pedro's hands, and yeah, it looks about right to me. Then again, I'm sure those of you out there know a ton more about the physical actual prop than I do, so let me know if this scale is off down in the comments below. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. Also, this guy is massive, if you couldn't already tell, so if I struggle to move a joint to its fullest potential, I apologize in advance. Now, starting off with the helmet, it is on a separate neck and a double ball peg, so you do get a significant amount of motion forward and back, swivel, and a ton of pivot side to side. The arms do go up on soft ratchets to about there. They will of course go forward and back, also on ratchets. There is a butterfly joint at the shoulder, swivel at the bicep, a double bend on ratchets at the elbow that does go just past 90, and a regular quarter scale wrist peg. The torso does have multiple joints, one for the top section, then one for the waist, swivel and pivot, plus some ratcheted crunch forward and backwards. The legs do go forward to there. They will go out to there on super sturdy ratchets, swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee, which yes, will go past 90, and lastly a hinge and swivel down here for the ankle. Just going over the 3 cool and 3 annoying things with quarter scale Mando. The first annoying thing isn't a major one, but it's kind of a fit and finish issue. It's of course the inside stitching of Grogu's bag. It's very rough. I don't exactly know why it looks this way. Hot Toys could have very easily done a nice clean stitch along the inside there, but unfortunately they left it quite raw. While for the most part I'm very happy with quarter scale Grogu, the second annoying thing is that they didn't even give you the suggestion of any hair on his little noggin. There's nothing sculpted in, there's no little wispy rooted hair bits. They could have very easily done that. but for some reason, they just chose not to. The third annoying thing, and I totally know why they did this, it was for stability reasons, but they included very hefty ratchet joints up here at the hips. So you can either have the legs very close together, or if you go one click out, they do sit quite far apart. Plus, they are super sturdy and hard to move. Great for posing, that means your Mando won't be taking any shelf dives, but having a gap of that much of a distance between each click is just a little bit hard to work with. The first cool thing is that even the straps down here on the thigh armor are actually made of pleather. Now yes, I would have rather them be made out of real leather, but they are actual separate attachments that go over the top of the armor, versus the 6 scale Mando, where these are fully sculpted on. The second cool thing is something that they absolutely didn't have to do, but there is some tech detail on the backside of his magnetic mines. Also, all 3 of them are fully removable and they can magnetize to a metal surface. Say for instance you have this guy in a detolf and you want one of his mines on one of the rails along the side, you could totally just pop them on there. The third cool thing is of course that torch. It's a super simple yet super effective mechanism and it lights up. I never thought that was something they were going to do, and maybe it's just the big kid in me that just loves seeing something light up on the side of a Mando helmet, but it just looks really awesome. Just wrapping up on the quarter scale Mandalorian and Grogu by Hot Toys. Now going into this, I told y'all, I was really excited. Y'all know I love my quarter scale figures, and this guy is everything I was hoping he was going to be, and more. He brings so much to the table. Quite literally, if you go for the deluxe version, the diorama base is stunning. Now I understand, it's not going to be for everyone. It's a very large piece. But if you have the room, I would say just go for it. The one word that I hear people using a lot when they talk about statues versus figures is the P word. Presence. And with this deluxe base, this guy has it in spades. Plus, the figure himself is pretty darn awesome. The body they've chosen fills out the suit perfectly. It's thick in areas where you'd expect it to be, and it's well articulated in others. It's the perfect blend of what we got with the smaller 1/6 scale offerings, and also what we'd seen before with the Star Wars quarter scale releases. This guy is another excellent addition to the line of 3 so far. I have my fingers crossed that we will eventually get a re-armored version of Boba Fett from The Mandalorian as well, but for now, this guy can go quite nicely alongside the existing Return of the Jedi Boba. And then we have Grogu, the most articulated Grogu that we've gotten so far. Yes, including the 1:1 scale one. I actually really love the way this guy looks. He has a bunch of joints, he's got swap out bits and pieces, he's got multiple hands. It's the ultimate Grogu. And if you are so inclined, you can just go ahead and pick him up separately. I'm not sure why you'd want to, but you could totally do that. Stay tuned to the channel because I will have a second video just showcasing that standalone release. Now, if you are looking to pick up this Mando and Grogu Deluxe set, they are available from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is, of course, down in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. While you are down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.